just going to whistle you a short tune, if that's all right. Ready?
Yeah.
That's called Whistle While You Work. It's a Disney tune.
I could tell it immediately, Judith. Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Well, welcome to another show, Judith. We're back and firing on all cylinders as always.
We are back, Nicola. We are so back.
Back and better than ever, as they say. Now, how's your week been?
Well, I'd rather hear your cruise news first, please.
Well, cruise news. Where do I start, my dear? Miami and the Caribbean. It was Mexican Honduras. It was Belize. It was Grand Cayman, and it was something called Isle of Roatan. And who knows where we were going? Nobody actually cares where we go. So, arrived in Miami at the rather nice Marriott Cadillac downtown. No, it wasn't downtown. It was the beach, Miami Beach. And the beach was lovely. The pool was lovely. The tiki bar was lovely. Came in at about 11 o'clock in the evening, whereupon we promptly found a 50s diner and stayed there till 5 in the morning our time, which was sort of 1 o'clock their time. So it was quite good because it made us sort of adjust quite fiercely to the local time. And next day spent a day in the what day was that? Friday? No, Saturday. Spent a day in the hotel, pool and hot tub, and hot tubs in the sunshine. What's that all about? But it was quite enjoyable.
I don't really get that. Where one of the places I stay in the Caribbean has a hot tub in the flat next door, and I thought, what's that all about? Was it nice?
Yes.
Did you get in? Yeah.
I thought I'd feel like a lobster being boiled from below and above. Right. Right. Really quite pleasant.
Are they cooler than they would be in a cool climate, or are they the same temperature?
Hot. And then you go and jump in the cool pool, which was rather nice.
Yeah.
But then in the evening, there was a party at the hotel for all cruisers, and lots of visitors came, previous cruisers and people who were just coming to say hi. And so loads of people came down from Rich Sheffrin's office to say hello, which was really nice. His copywriter Chuck and his PA Molly, and the person.
You said she had a surprise for you. Did it turn out to be something nice? You were worried it might be a big chair.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the chair. It was actually the collaborator on the transformational course, Dr. Laurie Emery, and her husband.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, her husband was a rather gorgeous firefighter, actually, so that was quite pleasant. And Molly brought her husband too, who's a teacher and teaches teenagers. So it was just lovely to see them all. It was lovely that they bothered to come, an hour's drive down the coast, really, to say hello, which was.
And I think you saw Suzanne as well, didn't you?
Oh, she looked amazing. She just looked amazing, and she was going because the wedding was on the wedding of Mike Phil Simon and his fiancée Michelle was actually on the cruise ship the next morning. So, and Suzanne was going to that. She'd been invited to that, so she stayed in my room and we talked for a bit, and then she got up in the morning and made herself gorgeous, which took all of 5 seconds, and off she went to the wedding. And it was great. And apparently Rich and his girlfriend Kim were at the wedding, so loads of people came just for the wedding. And then got off the ship again, and then we all got on it and cruised away.
And when you went to Grand Cayman, don't you have a client? And the angel lady lives in the Cayman Islands. Did you see her?
She does, but I don't think it's Grand Cayman she lives on. But no, we went. We went to. I'd booked for 3 trips, and the first trip was island hopping in Belize in a little 8-seater aeroplane. I picked that.
I thought you were so brave. I would no more dream of going in a balsa-wood aeroplane than poke sticks in my eyes, actually. Wasn't that scary? You used to be such a scaredy cat. Weren't you scared?
I was, but since coming back from the Entrepreneurs Transformation Weekend, I'm picking things that are scary on purpose, and it wasn't scary at all. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. I kept saying to myself in my head, what the am I doing here? But it was brilliant, and I just thought, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually doing this, and I'm not scared. It was great fun. Went on a, what was it? I don't know, some sort of trip. Oh, when we got off the aeroplane, we went on some boat trip. Well, I nearly went on it because this is interesting, actually, real contrast, because I'm going to talk a bit about what's impressed me about Americans later on. But one of the things that really didn't impress me was how rude some of them can be. We're on this boat. There's about 8 of us, and they said they don't give you any. I'm going to give them feedback on this. Don't give you any indication about whether you're going to get fed or not. So we all were under the impression we would be taken out on a nice boat trip. We'd feed some, sharks and things, and get fed ourselves, not by the sharks. And so when we got on this boat, and it turned out we weren't going to get fed. And we were going to be about 3 hours snorkeling. And one of the girls was diabetic, so she said, "Well, I really need to eat. So could you just hold the boat for 5 minutes while I go and get some snacks?" And I thought, well, I haven't done any breakfast, and if we're going to be out for 3 hours, I'm going to be quite hungry too. So I said, well, I'll go too. And these Americans just turned around. They were really quite rude, and they said, well, we paid for 3 hours snorkeling, and we don't want to wait. I mean, this girl was diabetic, for heaven's sake. So I just thought, bugger this. I'm not getting trapped on a boat with these three all afternoon. So I just got off and went and had lunch with the others, and we swam off a really nice beach, and then we went back in the aeroplane again. But I just thought, how unbelievably rude that was.
I sometimes think actually what they are is direct.
Yes, that could be. Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't translate. They speak their minds, which both you and I do too often. But there is a pattern of speech which I think could be interpreted as rude. I think it's direct.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I know what you mean, though. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, I should have been brave enough to be equally direct and say, well, I don't want, I don't want to go until we've got some food either. But anyway, I'll talk a bit about the other side of them later on. So, but that was an interesting one. So when the opportunity came up to go to Stingray City or to go and hang out at the Ritz-Carlton on Grand Cayman, I thought, I don't really want to get stuck with a load of people who don't like it, so I'll just go to the Ritz-Carlton. And it was absolutely beautiful. I mean, the hotel is, I've been to a few Ritzes in my time, and this one was absolutely stunning. And the beachfront that they had was, it was the best swimming I've ever experienced. It was beautiful. And lovely, lovely surroundings, as you can imagine. So that was rather nice. And
yes, I'm a little bit partial. You won't be surprised to hear, to a Ritz-Carlton myself.
No, what? I'm not surprised at all.
Quite often people say, well, what were we talking about the other day? One of my clients was talking about, I don't know, living off grid and, staying in a yurt in Spain and sharing a shower. And where's the nearest luxury hotel? It was ghastly to me. But actually, I was in the minority. Everybody else was very excited about living in a yurt in Spain in an olive grove.
Well, not me, no. I wouldn't like that either at all. But no, I mean, generally speaking, the beds were amazing. The service was amazing. The whole experience was amazing. Laughed like a drain for an entire week. I mean, my big brother boys, they were very, very funny. And because of the podcast and the fact that I'd interviewed loads of people over the year, loads of people came up and said hello, and it was really very much easier to network than normal. So,
which you anticipated, I think, didn't you? So that was good.
Yes, and the only frustrating thing was the internet was $30 for 45 minutes, and it was painfully slow. So to load a page took a minute, which it ate up your allowance. So it forced everyone offline for a while. But I was trying to check the progress of this podcast and on both of the Fridays, and I couldn't do it. It was very frustrating because they show the podcast charts differently on mobile than they do on desktop. But when I got back, I was delighted to see that we're still riding high, number 5 in the overall business category. So I'm
very good. I mean, I had full Wi-Fi. I couldn't work it out for you. I'm so sorry about that. I think it's the most confusing interface I've ever seen, quite frankly.
Yeah, it is a little bit, but good trip all round. And woke up, came back. The second day, I got a text saying that they'd managed to smash my oven door. And I could get no more details out of them, but I did send a fairly stern warning that it should be fixed by the time I get home. And I came back yesterday to no toilet roll, no milk, no bread, no cereal, nothing. A fridge full of booze, but nothing useful at all. So I had to drag myself jet lagged and exhausted round to the shops, and then I came this morning just to have some breakfast. There was no blooming Special K either. They just like a plague of locusts through the house.
Well, that's teenagers for you, darling. I mean, you should know better by now, frankly.
Well, I had some dim eye. Oh, there's no washing up liquid and there's no dishwasher tablets either. So there's a pile of washing up. I just
all essentials. All basics and essentials have been eroded.
Oh, plenty of cans of gin and tonic in the fridge, though, so that was quite nice.
Life could be worse. At least you can drown your sorrows.
Exactly. But then I had this long conversation with my son about how the oven door got smashed. I thought perhaps they closed it too hard, or someone had kicked a football through it or something. But no, it turns out they were all wrestling on the kitchen floor, and someone put a knee through it. I mean, why would you be wrestling on the kitchen floor in anyone's normal lifetime? Just not something that occurred to me.
Sorry, I'm about to go into a boarding school giggle there, really, because from the naughty girls class. Certainly, I wouldn't be wrestling on the kitchen floor, but I can imagine how mad things happen. I certainly got into trouble at school. There involved a sink coming off the wall. Again, only something a teenager could achieve.
Exactly. Anyway, it's going to cost that teenager £20 for the next year, which he's a bit horrified about, but. There you
£20 a month. £20 a month.
£20 a month for next year, yes, to fix it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
There's always consequences, but I'm glad to be home anyway. It was great.
Good.
Your week then.
Oh, well, it doesn't compare to yours. This section is called 3 Things About Your Week. All 3 things of mine revolve around Paul McKenna's latest book.
Oh.
So Paul McKenna's latest book, the CD, DVD downloads that come with it, doing the exercises and the 28-day plan. I'm obsessed with this book, and you will be hearing more about it during the episode. It's called The 3 Things That Will Change Your Destiny Today. Oh. I mean, honestly, unmissable title.
Yeah.
On the back, RRP $12.99, but I got it from Amazon for £6. It's a very short book, my favourite sort of book that you can read tonight and put into practice tomorrow. I've read it twice already. It comes with a little DVD and CD inside it where he hypnotises you constantly. Also a credit card where you can do that on a download rather than this old tech DVD, CD nonsense, which of course I'm not interested in at all. But there's something in it called the havening technique, which he describes as EFT on steroids. Actually, I don't think he does. I think it was our mutual friend Neil Long that described it as EFT on steroids. And he mentioned the book to me, and so did another client. And when 2 clients mention one book to me within 12 hours, I'm all over it like a rash. And it's great. Later on, when you've got a bit of leisure time on Skype, I'll talk you through one of the exercises. It really does change. It's changed everything for me. I'm only on day 7. I haven't even done day 7 yet. I've done, and it gets you to measure every day how different you feel, and it's all about happiness, resilience, confidence, luck, lucky person, are you a winner, all that kind of stuff. And the exercises, the hypnotisms, they actually change your physiology. You feel different, and when you feel different, I've done, I've got up earlier, I've gone out of the house more, all sorts of things which are just spontaneous.
Good God.
I know. But so I have to declare 2 things here. 1, I did my NLP training with Paul McKenna, so I'm already a fan of his. And 2, the book's been edited by Michael Neal, who, as you know, was my coach in 2007. So I'm inclined towards the work of these materials anyway. Paul McKenna is the consummate professional who, despite having a very glamorous life in Hollywood now, is absolutely devoted to our being able to make easy, quick, fast changes in our lives that really make a difference. And it shines through everything that he does. He could retire, I'm sure, on what he's made by now, but he doesn't. He's the least cynical, most devoted person I know in that field, actually, in terms of change, personal transformation.
Something occurred to me while I was listening to your enthusiasm there. I have a friend who teases me about how each book is the one. And, because I'm exactly the same. I absolutely love books. I devour them. I put the things into action from them that I possibly can. And they change my life in either in a little bit or a lot. There's been books that have changed my thinking a lot. So let's talk for a second about our unwavering enthusiasm for continual improvement.
Yes, I mean, it's our field, isn't it?
Yeah.
And therefore, we teach what we most need to learn, but you have to be steeped in what you're trying to persuade your clients to do, I think. So for me, it's a matter of authenticity. I don't want to read everything. You've much more voracious appetite than me, but when two clients mention it in 12 hours, I have to know what they're talking about, because they're going to be putting it into practice, and therefore I need to help and support them with that. If they were saying, I'm going to paint myself blue and put a tattoo on every part of my naked body, I wouldn't be doing that. So it's not that I'm mad and susceptible, but I am a fan of Paul McKenna. I've spent 7 days with him in the basement of a hotel, and so it wasn't difficult for me to make this decision. You know how I feel about basements of hotels with no daylight.
Yeah.
I think I'm not as good as you are at putting all the exercises into practice. I certainly don't write in the book because I want to give it away and I don't want people knowing the secrets of my innermost heart. So I've had to photocopy and write it on bits of paper. But I have done it. And the brilliant thing about hypnotism, of course, is what he's doing somehow is with each day that I do it, I want to do it more the next day. Now, most exercises aren't like that. You kind of have to force yourself to do it until, well, you sometimes have to force yourself to do it all the time, don't you?
Yes, you do. Yeah. So you're saying that you actually enjoy it and you're getting so much benefit from it, you can't wait for the next session.
Yeah, it's a bit like, day 4 of the juicing. You're over the headaches and the detoxes. You're feeling so much better. You actually want to do more of it. Not everything works like that. For instance, when you go to the gym, I had a personal trainer for 18 months. I never ever felt, as I got better and better, that I liked it so much I wanted to do more of it. I hated it. But, some things make you feel better enough to want to do more of it.
Now I'm intrigued, because I only just found out recently about this whole thing about meditation changes the physiology of your brain.
Yeah. I tell you what, later tonight, I've done it with a client this week. Later, when we've got some time together on Skype, I'll do one of the exercises with you on Skype where you can see my screen, 20 minutes, and we'll just see if it makes a difference.
Okay. Well, good time to do it, because I'm back from the cruise with, determined to, because one of the things I did, I am very overweight at the moment, and that is down to the fact that I don't take enough exercise and sit at the computer all day, which another thing I'm determined to change. So this would be a very good time to do that.
It might help. Yes, it might help. What's interesting, before you begin the hypnosis, he says, think of a problem or a block, and even if you don't know what it is. So you know what yours are, and I know what most of mine are, but actually you can do it whether or not you know what they are, whether or not you can put a name to them, which I think is quite useful. And one more thing in this category, one of my clients, I'm so sorry about this, Nicola, has challenged me to whistle on our podcast. So I'm just going to whistle you a short tune, if that's all right.
Well, you can do that, and then I'll try and do the same, shall I?
Can you whistle? Okay, so here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
That's called Whistle While You Work. It's a Disney tune.
I could tell it immediately, Judith.
There you go.
And I'm going to select a tune from the CD that has been left on front of my computer, which I'm most surprised to see, I must say. Here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Should I stay or should I go by The Clash?
Yeah, I must say that neither you nor I are going to win any whistling competitions, but still, we've risen to the challenge, which is great.
It's almost as good as the client challenge, isn't it? It's the listener's challenge. Send a challenge in and we'll attempt to fulfil it online, live.
It was my own fault. I was sharing G'd up with excitement. Paul McKenna created excitement. I was sharing something on social media, and one of them was Whistle While You Work, and the client said, I challenge you, Judith. I said, well, I can't do it when I'm talking to clients, but I can do it when I'm doing all my marketing. She said, no, do it on the podcast.
Yeah, well, I've realised that my whistling is much like my singing. It sounds better in my head than it does out in the real world.
So, Nicola, what's fueled your fire?
Oh, well, being around 450 positive, enthusiastic and freely sharing marketing professionals has fueled my fire. Interestingly, there's this amazing, well, it's just brilliant. The whole thing is all about no pitching, just sharing and meeting as many people as possible so that you can then go home and foster the relationships. It really was quite amazing, and it makes you realise how negative most people in the real world are. Because when you bring, everyone kept saying you wear your lanyard so that you all know each other to start with, and you keep meeting normal cruisers. There was about, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 people on the cruise, and everyone kept saying, oh, you're with the marketers. Yes. Oh, aren't you all enthusiastic and positive? Aren't you all having a lovely time? It was really quite noticeable to the other cruisers how upbeat we all were and excited we were to be there. But they also have this rather lovely section called cool tools and resources, and they have 2 microphones in. They actually have a lounge that they take over completely, and all the events are in there, which is just as well because it's really hard to find your way around those ships. I often ended up at the wrong end of the ship for my manicure or whatever I was having at the time, or the wrong end of the ship for a meeting. They had 2 microphones, and people literally just got up and said, "What's working for you right now?" And it was quite interesting, having had our discussion about books there, how many books were recommended. But it was books, software, private rituals, resources. It was all sorts of things, and people just got up and shared the things that were working for them, and it was really great. But just being around all that positivity and enthusiasm, and it makes me realise how much of our success truly is down to just the thoughts we have in our head. Because everybody's got the same tools and resources. Everybody's got access to the same stuff online. Everybody's got access to the same books. Whether you read them or not, or use the tools or not, or whatever, is all down to the internal dialogue going on in your head. And a lot of people talked about that. That's what made the difference for them in the end.
Yes. Did your ship leave from Miami or from Fort Lauderdale?
No, it went from Port of Miami.
Because I stayed in Miami once and got a ship from Fort Lauderdale, which is just a taxi drive away, and I got into the taxi with 2 jolly friends at 6 o'clock in the morning or something, and reminding me of your story about the other cruisers saying that you were all so upbeat. The taxi driver said to us 3 British girls, "Are you always this jolly?" To which the answer was, of course, yes.
Being on holiday helps, doesn't it? Definitely. But
it does. It is easier to be jolly, yes. But actually, once upbeat, managing your state, isn't it? That's what Paul McKenna's all about, actually.
Learning that is probably the most important key to success, really, for anyone listening. So
I think that's true.
My mentor's got a great phrase which I always remember now, which is if you haven't got the resources, you have to become more resourceful. So whenever I find myself thinking I can't do that because I don't have that, I just think, well, how can I achieve it in another way?
Yes.
And that's sort of the nub of it, really, isn't it? It's just turning.
I definitely think that's the essence of an entrepreneur. We don't let anything stop us. We go looking for the workaround. Oh, there must be another way. How can we do that then? Oh, you can't do that. Oh, no. If somebody says that to me, just watch me. I'm going around the back. I'm going to find out how I can sneak through.
Absolutely. And so the thing that also became very apparent, which is going to fuel my fire into the next year, is that how much people start to look after themselves, and how this whole being chained to a computer in the dark winter days for the entire day, how much I've really got to break myself of that habit, because they're all starting to enjoy life. Well, they are enjoying life, and actually the fact that I'm now settled on the things I want to do means I don't have to work all the time. I just need to do the things each week required to move those things forward.
I have to say that's occurred to me of late too, again through the Paul McKenna materials, and also working with my clients when they very apologetically report in that they didn't do anything on Wednesday because they went to a spa with their sister or something. I go, you mean you were having a life? Hooray! Yeah. We do forget to have a life, don't we?
Well, if you're ambitious and you want to succeed, yes, perhaps you can sometimes, but you can think just as well on a surfboard as you can sitting at your computer. In fact, probably better.
That's probably better, I agree, yes.
Not that either of us will be seen on a surfboard anytime soon.
No, I have no plans to do that imminently.
But you never know, that's the thing.
No, don't rule it out, exactly.
Fueled your fire then, apart from Mr. McKenna?
Yes, it's a quote, actually. One of my clients shared it on Sunday, very inspirational, and I've shared it a lot this week as well. It's by Martha Beck, who you'll know is one of my very favourite gurus and writers and Oprah's life coach, and I'm going to read it to you if I may. It's called paddling skill number 1, don't swallow the river.
Okay.
I've noticed that people who are still in train track mode try to handle every demand or request that reaches them. That's like trying to drink the Nile. You just can't do everything you shouldn't try. When your to-do list threatens to spill over, examine every item on it while asking 2 questions. 1, is this task absolutely necessary to keep my life afloat? 2, does this task buoy me up emotionally? If the answer to either of these questions is yes, do the deed. If not, do nothing. Let that problem or opportunity float past you. Wave and smile if you like, but don't bring inessential, unpleasant things on board. Your kayak isn't big enough, and anything unnecessary could sink you.
Oh, that's rather nice.
We don't have to do everything. We shouldn't try. Don't drink the Nile. Is it absolutely necessary to keep my life afloat, or is it something I would love to do? If it doesn't get a yes on either one of those, we just wave and smile and let it pass on by.
It's a bit like the Bauhaus quote: if it's not useful or beautiful, don't have it in your home.
Stop trying to do everything. I mean, I try to, it's about requests, it says here. Don't try to handle every demand or request that reaches you. I do. And I don't think we need to. Just say, that's not for me. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yes, and I've just been going through my inbox before talking to you, and I thought, can I delete that, or do I really feel compelled to read it? Because I like to keep up with things, but I really had to be ruthless because, of course, it was a whole week's worth, and
yes.
So, am I really? Can I manage without knowing that what's in that, whatever it is?
Yes.
And if I thought I could,
I think we can, Nicola, because the world is full of information, and there's going to be another week's worth of information next week as well, isn't there?
And I'm a great believer. I mean, I can't remember if it's Thomas Leonard that said, the things that you need to know will make themselves known to you eventually.
Yeah, nice, really nice, yeah.
Good stuff. A word from our sponsors. This week's episode was sponsored by Audio Jungle. To get some immediate atmosphere for your website or your recordings, go to ownitthepodcast.com/Audio Jungle. Client challenge of the week then, Judith.
Okay, so it's what I offer isn't me. If people don't want it, I'm not rejected personally. So this is about almost everybody I've ever met who can't make the distinction between their offering and themselves. So, for instance, if I offer coaching and people say no, I'm not personally rejecting. They're just saying no, they don't want coaching right now, thanks very much. And if my client is a chef and we offer pudding, we say no, we're not personally rejected. And if they're a writer and we don't buy their book, that we're not rejecting them. It's about achieving a separation between who you are as a human being and what you offer in your business.
This is a really interesting one. I'll tell you why, because there is the thing about the whole lean startup movement and having a minimum viable product. And the idea of my internet marketing training is to get people to the point where they make an offer as quickly as possible to see if there's any traction. And so in the case of a pudding or coaching or whatever, you've sort of decided that this is the pudding you're going to put on the menu and this is what you're going to be coaching around. But in the terms of some businesses, online businesses, for example, it might well be that you've got a great product or service, but you're not making the offer in a way that makes it attractive to the target market. So, which pudding? You're going to offer pudding in a restaurant and you're going to probably offer a selection of puddings. Online, if you offer a selection of puddings, it's going to confuse your customer. So it's better to offer one pudding or perhaps 3 puddings rather than 10 or 20. But which puddings to offer? That's the question. And are you offering them in a way that your customer would like them? So, for example, if it's rum barber, for example, let's just pick that at random because I had one while I was away. Is that rum barber described attractively enough to make someone want to choose it on the menu? Is it the appropriate price? Are there instalment options for the rum barber? So
if nobody buys the rum barber, there's no need to go and cry in the kitchen because they've rejected you personally.
Yes, but it might well be that
that's my point. You see, so no, you're going to another area. My point is this separation between the one who offers and the offering. So that I hear what you're saying, which is there's a way of refining the offering so it becomes more attractive. But whether it's more attractive or less attractive, it's never me.
Very true. And that is one of the things that good salespeople are able to do, is that they're able to detach from it, and they're able to say, have I made a good offer? Is it, presented in a way that the person can understand, and is it an appropriate price, or are there easy installment options? And then
Yeah.
if people still say no, they do realise that it's not them, and they go on to the next person for whom that offer might be appropriate.
Yeah, there's a very good CD that you can get on Amazon for £4 by Jim Rohn, who was he's talking in this about the rejection that people in particularly network marketing get, and how lives in the land of no. I think that's right.
Yes.
And that you have to ask 10 times in order to make 3 sales or 2 sales or 1 sales, and you get to know your strike rate so that you're enthusiastic about asking another 10 people, because in there will be 3 who will say yes. But also very important in that field, I think, because it is very confusing there's so much rejection. Who was it the other day? I think it was Graham Norton, while you were away, that you were able to catch up with. He had a lot of actors on the sofa. I know it was Jonathan Ross. He had Dame Diana Rigg, who's in something called Game of Thrones that you probably watch.
No, I don't.
Mel Sue, Annie Dyer from EastEnders, and Johnny Vegas. And they were all talking about going to auditions and being rejected. And I think one of them had been rejected twice, and the other one was talking about being rejected for a butter advert. And Jonathan Ross said, I don't know how you do a job that involves so much personal rejection. And I think perhaps if you're an actor, it does involve personal rejection, because what they're saying is you are not right for this role. But in business, we are not personally, there is no need to be personally rejected. If it's not us, then I think the clients need to get a little bit of resilience, a sort of resilience margin between the products and services they offer and themselves. And I think it's all too easy when you're a newbie to feel that you're personally rejected, you've done something wrong, it's your fault, they don't like you. It's nothing to do with you as a human being, by and large.
I find this very difficult in higher end clients and done for you services, which is one of the reasons I'm making a shift from, I worked with Neil for 2 years, and that was actually the main reason I left Raw Local, was because I didn't like the fact that when a client hands over a large amount of money per month and they expect everything done for them, I couldn't separate the responsibility for what was being done and the client's success. So even if the things were being done efficiently that we'd agreed to do, if it didn't have the desired outcome, I felt bad. And
you know what? I hear what you're saying, and I think what we all have to do, and I mean anybody that's listening, is that we have to change this idea that as a client, if we pay a large amount of money for something, everything is going to be done for us and miracles are going to ensue. I think that the service provider, in return for a large sum of money, has to do exactly what they've promised they will do in terms of the work they'll do. The results cannot be guaranteed, I know. But the client has to often do stuff as well, even when they pay you a large sum of money. So I think there's an education gap between what people expect. Anyway, I've had a client come to me and say they'd paid a large sum of money to somebody else who'd offered to hold hand through something, and it hadn't gone well, and they were disappointed. I think there is. I think there's I don't think that was my client's problem. I don't think it was the service provider's problem. I think there's a misunderstanding about what miracles will or will not ensue when you pay somebody else a large sum of money.
Yeah, and that's why I feel much happier with the Facebook ad scenario, because it's very clear cut what I'm delivering. I'm either delivering likes, clicks, i.e. traffic, or leads. And I can't guarantee sales, but having said that, if we can get 25 sales a day, I can then start to increase those sales. But sales are never guaranteed on traffic, buying traffic, and I like it that way. I like the fact that, I find it easier to compartmentalize in my head. And it's interesting. I think it might be a woman male thing, because perhaps even, a parent thing, because all the men I know that are successful are successfully able to, you're right, compartmentalize. in their heads. They just don't seem to take on personal responsibility.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Do you remember we ran an event once, the one that I ran, the one with the 200 people, and there were 2 people that didn't like it and asked for their money back. And I went out to lunch with my old boss, who was a bloke. He said, "What's the matter with you?" And I went, "Oh, I ran this event for 200 people and 2 people didn't like it." And he went, "What about the 198 that did?" He said, "I'm pleased if I'm happy if I pleased 50% of the room." I think you're right. I don't know whether it's a man-woman thing anymore, because we're all much more like each other. But I do think that there is a choice to be made here, that I am not my product. There is no personal rejection if somebody didn't like it.
Yes, that's right. So, or you've got to accept that about yourself, know yourself well enough that, as I have come to, that I'm never going to be able to not feel responsible for my client's success. And somehow, when I'm coaching someone, or, in the whole internet marketing realm, I don't feel the same responsibility as if they had paid me to do the service. So when it comes to paid for services, I just have to limit myself to things where there are very clear deliverables.
Yeah, there you go. So I think that's a good response always, is if we notice pain, to create a solution that reduces the pain potential.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what you've done.
Yeah, and so that CD by Jim Rohn, then, was that called Yes Lives in the Land of No?
No, it's not, but I'll look it up while we're talking, actually, because I recommend it to almost every client. He's got this brilliant thing of, his is, he gets 3 wins in 10 asks. So he starts the day by putting 10 stones in one of his, I think he's dead now, actually, poor sausage, but he starts the day by putting 10 stones in one pocket, and every time he asks, he moves a stone from one pocket to the other, because he knows he's just in the, Jim Rohn CD.
While you're doing that, I've always been very resistant to sales, and I wish I'd actually got over this earlier, because selling is just changing. It's just solving someone's problems. It's just serving someone. And
oh, I totally love selling. I totally love selling. Yeah, one of my clients said over the weekend, I don't like marketing because it's forcing my stuff on people. No, it's not. It's telling them that it exists, and it's creating desire, so they want it.
Yes, and it's making it easy for them to buy, because so many people make it so difficult for people to buy. We know people like that, don't we? And
yeah, so Jim Rohn, got it here. Building your network marketing business, but don't let that put you off, because I've never built a network marketing business, but I learned so much from the CD. Currently £4, used to be £2. So I must have recommended it to so many people that it's got more popular and the price has gone up or something.
Okay, all right. And the other thing is, of course, that in the internet marketing realm, we work in terms of direct mail numbers. So it's a 1 to 10% conversion. So for every 1,000 people you show your product or service to, you'll be lucky if between 10 and 100 show any interest at all, i.e. opt in. And then you'll be lucky if between 1 and 3% actually buy of that 1,000. So if I work on those numbers, so I don't get disappointed. And
now you're explaining to all of our listeners why they might need a much bigger list and a much bigger pond to be fishing in, because they'll be lucky if they get 10 out of 1,000.
Yeah, between 10 to 100 opt-ins, and between 1 and 3% on sales, and that's a $30 to $50 price point. So
yeah,
so really you've got to work 10 times harder than you think you've got to. But once I'll never forget, the other wonderful thing was when Chris Barrow described it like a reservoir. If you can build a reservoir, a pool of people who know who you are, what you do, and what you can do for them, and how you can help them, but it's really hard work to fill that reservoir up. But once the reservoir is full, every teacup you pour in one side will result in a teacup overflowing out the other side. And then every bucket you pour in one side, a bucket will pour out the other side. So it's about getting to the point where the reservoir is full, and then it becomes much, much easier to make a sale, because you don't have to put so much effort in the other side.
So this problem is we're speaking to the people who, during the reservoir building period, have also not made the separation of themselves from their offering yet. So these are startup emotional issues, I think.
Yeah, I think they carry on. I think they manifest themselves in startup. When we say startup, we mean new businesses. And actually, I think it can manifest itself in a startup business where it's venture capital funded or bootstrapped, and then it can also manifest itself in the corporate world, because if you've got a position in the corporate world and you're trying to persuade other people to go along with a plan, you're selling to them, aren't you? And if you can't detach yourself from the outcome, you're going to feel like a failure.
Yeah, that's right. Offer them the project, not yourself.
Yes. Okay, so what's your word of the week then?
Oh, I think you're going to like this one. I love this one, actually. It's whim, spelt WHIM.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought if I said whim to you, you wouldn't know what I was on about. Whim, whim.
Whim.
And it's always been one of my favourite words. I knew in my Caribbean island, the house that I have my eye on to buy is called Le Caprice, which is the French word for whim. And this week, one of my clients told this wonderful story on Facebook where she took her dog out for a walk on Saturday morning in Gloucestershire, and they saw the snow in the distance glinting on the Brecon beacons, which I meant to look up before this call, but I think they're in Wales. And they went home and got supplies, and on a whim drove to Wales or wherever these snowy mountains were, and had it for 2 hours. And they didn't even have a map. They got in the car with the dog and they drove towards the snowy mountains on a whim. And I think that's a rather heroic story. A bit like you and your surfboarding, we should do more things on a whim.
Yeah, I do like spontaneity, I must say.
I'm not very good at it, are you?
No, not really, but occasionally, if encouraged by other people, I have been known to be spontaneous.
Yeah, and funnily enough, capricious is the same thing. So, whimsical from whimsy and whimsical from whim, and capricious from Le Caprice. It's just a word I've always loved as a wordsmith. And then this week, a client actually lived her life on a whim, which I just thought was a really inspiring in a small way, but good and exciting moment. And if you're chained to your laptop, of course, you don't really see those opportunities, but I thought that was rather good fun.
Yeah. You know, my definition of freedom has always been an empty diary. And I do have commitments, but I'm corralling them all into Wednesdays. And Sarah has suggested that I now, instead of doing one or two podcast interviews a week, I cram them all into one Wednesday of a month, which would then give me the other Wednesdays largely free. So I'm debating whether that would just be hang over me too onerously, or whether it would be a really good idea. So yeah, that's
so actually what you're talking about is creating an environment for more spontaneity.
Yes, exactly, because you can't be spontaneous and act on a whim if you've got loads of appointments in your diary.
No, you can't. This was a weekend, to be fair to my client. But now tell me, what's your word of the week?
Well, you're really gonna like this one, because you know that my last Mercedes, which got written off by the 91-year-old, accidentally hitting the accelerator instead of the brake. I couldn't bear to part with the key tag of it. So when it was towed off, and I've been managing without a car because I don't really go many places, and I thought it was a bit of a luxury I didn't need. I could just get taxis, etc., etc. So, but I kept the key tag for my silver Mercedes, and one of the boys was saying, blah blah blah, you have to come over more often. I said, well, there's a bit of a challenge there because I don't have a car right now, and he said, oh, so I'm just about to put my car on eBay. He said, you can have it off me if you like. He said, don't pay me all at once, just pay in instalments. So my second silver Mercedes on interest-free instalments has just manifested itself.
Well, no, you did tell us that last week, but what's your word of the week? Silver Mercedes, key tag?
Mercedes manifesting.
Ah, nice. Okay. Nice alliteration as well.
Oh, I know. I love a bit of alliteration. If I could tack a third M on there, I would. So yes, it's come about, and it is now sitting outside my house in the most effortless and interest-free manner.
Yeah, you did tell us that there was something, you were going to meet them at the airport, and then they were going to collect it on your way home from the airport. Is that what happened?
I did.
Yeah, very nice.
So who or what's impressed this week then?
My thing this week, people who do their thing every day, whether or not it pays. And what I mean by that is I have a lot of clients who are in their soul and in all or part of their business, say artists or writers. And they may or may not be deriving their living from arting or writing right now, but they do it every day, under my encouragement, it must be said, but they do it every day. So artists drawing, writers writing, people who make that commitment and stick to it, so that in your soul you're an artist, so you're going to create art every day, even if it only takes you, even if you've only got 20 minutes, you do it. Because I think what happens is, I've seen it so many times it could knock me down with a feather, people who have that, they do their thing every day. The very act of doing it every day brings opportunities to do it in a way they'd never imagined, possibly paid, often paid actually, but you then become the thing that you want to be because you're doing it. So it's about the commitment to stick with it. So a bit like the 365 blogs, it's I'm going to draw every day. I'm going to write every day. I'm going to do my thing every day. Bit like us and the podcast. We love talking, so we're doing the podcast. We've no idea where it leads. You know, turning up, committing, doing your thing, not getting, I don't know how to say this politely, pissed off because results don't come from it. It's not about results. It's about you're an artist, so you draw, so you commit to it and you do it every day. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, with internet marketing, even if I won the lottery or something, well, I won't because I don't buy tickets, but if I did, I would still be sitting, trying to figure out the way, the best way to make the latest bit of software work, because I absolutely,
So people who do their thing every day, whether or not it pays, they're the people who are impressing me this week.
Yeah, lovely.
What about you?
Well, service ethic is the thing.
I love that in America, don't you?
I don't. Yeah. People on the ship, it never fails to impress me. You're wearing a lanyard, so it's got your name on it. I know that. But people who are just cleaning hallways or changing laundry or carrying cutlery about, take the time to look at your lanyard, get your name and use it when they say, "Good afternoon, Nicola, how's your day going?"
Yeah, nice.
People doing menial jobs as if they're delighted to be doing them with a smile on their face, probably the sunshine helps, but doing it in a way that and going the extra yard by bothering to look at your name, I just find that absolutely astonishing.
Do you remember when we worked with Philly and one of her very first ideas was about improving the standards and ethics around service in the UK? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that being one of her things, but I do remember Philly, very clearly, obviously.
It was her earliest first business when we worked with her, about training people in the service industry, in hotels, I think. But I remember thinking at the time, this is such a brilliant idea because the Americans are so good at this. This is what's missing in England, because in England we treat people like that, like shit, and so they feel like shit. So when you go into Starbucks, people are vile to the people behind the counter, and I never understand it. They treat them like serfs. I don't know what the word is, serfs, slaves. And but in America, they love it. We treat them well. We give them big tips. It's lucrative for them. They feel good about themselves. It's a virtuous circle. I wish we could import that here. We're just so bad at that in England. And when it happens in England, it just takes you completely by surprise. You could fall over.
Yes. Well, I think the fact that 15% service tip being mandatory on every bill and then them getting extra tips on top, but then, you wonder how much of that they actually see. But they certainly act like they're pleased to be doing the job.
Yeah, you want to give them money because they've made the experience of being served by them so pleasurable.
Absolutely, yeah, and nothing's too much trouble. It was really, again, very astonishing, but it was the name thing that got me. So if you take one thing away from this, then it would be, to try and use your client's name. We obviously do, but if you're doing something in a service industry, just using someone's name makes such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Even when it's because you've got a thing around your neck that says your name.
Yeah, but I think it's nice to be appreciated and recognised and so on, isn't it?
Well, especially amongst 3,000 other cruisers, it was very nice.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, another lovely episode we've rattled through together there, Judith. So thank you very much.
So we have.
Yeah, see you next week, same time, same place.
Yes.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.
Gotta take it on.